we have evolved to have one of the most complex and resilient respiratory system in nature, and it's actually part of our evolution as a species. Today, you're gonna learn how to become an active agent in this process and uncover the relationship between breathing and human performance. Now, I'd love to start with a story about a tribe in the Copper Canyons of Mexico. The Tara Mohara are renowned for their long distance running abilities. They actually go by the name of Raramuri, which means to run on foot. And indeed, one of the things that makes their feats so remarkable is that they run mostly on nothing but sandals for long distances and long periods of time. In a book called Born to Run, the author, Christopher McDougall, actually recruits 3 of these tribesmen for a race in Leadville, Colorado, which is an ultra marathon. And they made quite the scene when they showed up at the starting point in their long robes and little sandals, and especially in contrast to the Western competitors, which had their sponsorship deals and all the little energy gels at the ready. So there's photos of the race about 50 kilometers in, and it's quite the scene, right? We're seeing people suffer, we're seeing people get injured, extremely dehydrated, and really starting to fall apart. Then there's photos of the tribesmen, and they're breathing light and easy through their noses. Actually, it doesn't end there, because the amazing thing is that one of them decides to go for it, and he actually ends up winning the race and just blowing everyone's mind. And what was interesting is it would take most of the competitors days, if not weeks, to recover, whereas the Raramuri were actually on their feet and ready to go again the next day. Further research would show that their blood pressure was actually lower after running a marathon than it was beforehand. And it just makes you wonder whether we have it all backwards today. Right? So in the book, Christopher McDougall actually stumbles upon an interesting fact, which is that when humans came down from the trees, right, when we became bipedal and our hind legs actually separated from our diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle, we could control our breathing in isolation. See, almost every other animal in the animal kingdom has to take 1 breath per 1 movement. Whereas we humans can actually control our breathing outside of our movement, and this is one of the unique edges that breathwork gives you, okay? We're the only animal alive today that can do breathwork and actually make a conscious decision to override an unconscious function and decide to control our respiration. This is our unique edge, and it's not a coincidence. It's a byproduct of evolution, and we're going to uncover how you can improve every single breath you take using this simple analogy. So it's almost like you are a car, right? And what you can actually do is you can take the carburetor out of the car, you can fine tune its performance, and then you can put it back in and re-enter the race with an edge. So at Breathless, we have decided and we've uncovered that we teach the full spectrum of breathing exercises and philosophies, right? And it sometimes challenges people's thinking. And what we've worked out is that when it comes to breathing and performance, we need a multidimensional approach. So we have actually 3 spheres of influence into how to really optimize a person's performance using breathwork. And the first one is your baseline breathing. And this is where we must begin. Your breathing under pressure is simply a reflection of your breathing at rest. So first we lay a good foundation, but it doesn't end there. You can actually continue to raise the floor of your performance and not only bring your breathing back to normal, but keep pushing the edges, and this is the closest thing you will get to super powers, okay? We can continue to improve our chemistry, right? Which will make us unshakable and actually keep us in the game for much longer. We can continue to improve our capacity, which will actually strengthen our breathing muscles and also our performance and help prevent injury. And last but not least, doing those 2 things will improve our cadence, also known as our ventilatory capacity. So that's actually how much we breathe when we get under pressure. And one of the key differences, one of the key things they found in comparing professional athletes versus amateurs and the absolute best in the game is that the better the athlete, the less they breathe when they exercise. And this is really fascinating, and it's one of the reasons why these techniques will help you go the distance. It actually takes a lot of energy to take a breath. It's been estimated it takes about 15% of your working energy, of your total energy output, to simply keep on breathing whilst moving. And what happens a lot is when people gas out or they give up, it's oftentimes simply because they can't keep up with the breathing, right? Their breathing apparatus is running on high revs, and this pulls all the blood towards it and moves it away from the muscles. So one key thing is that if you can raise the floor in your performance, you can actually learn to breathe less whilst under pressure, and that could significantly reduce the amount of energy that is required to keep you going. This is what raising the floor is all about. It's lifting your game and giving you that unique edge. And really the place to begin is to make sure that you can maintain nasal breathing for as long as possible. The nose is actually the one thing that will keep you going longer and stronger. You can kind of use the analogy of just imagine for a moment that you are a car, right? And you can be any car you want, but you have to be a manual, right? Stick shift. And you have 5 different gears that you can drive on. And gear number 1 is when you're simply out and about for a light walk, very low energy output, and your breathing should also match that, being light and easy. Then when you shift to gear number 2, you might be going for a light jog, practicing some yoga, riding a bicycle, you still maintain nasal breathing. This is where it gets interesting. When you up the pace a bit and you reach your aerobic threshold, which is about 60-70% of your maximum output, you're going to shift to gear number 3. And the art of learning to really breathe your best under pressure is to match your respiration to your energy systems. So we have to make sure that when we reach our aerobic threshold, we're still nasal breathing. Okay, this is going to be your new ceiling for a while. You still have gear number 4, which is where you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you even have a secret button, which is gear number 5, okay? Only for absolute emergencies. And gear number 5 is like pressing the nitro button. Okay, this is where you mouth breathe. And what happens when you mouth breathe is you're actually closing off the oxygen supply. The moment the mouth opens, the airways close, okay? And we don't want to start losing oxygen. So only use this in absolute emergencies, okay? Just like you don't want to run nitro through your engine on a daily basis, you don't want to mouth breathe regularly because you're going to have to pay the debt for that later on. Now, the secret to raising your performance is to actually make gear number 3, in other words, the ceiling of your nasal breathing, the point where you can still maintain nasal breathing, your new ceiling, okay? So you take 1 step backwards so that you can take 2 steps forwards later on. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna start slowly and steadily flying past everyone else, breathing light and easy. The first thing to do is to ensure that you don't pass your limit of nasal breathing for a period of time. It's actually been shown that it takes about 6 weeks, even for professional athletes, to make their training completely nasal, to go up to 90% of their VO2 max, still being able to maintain nasal breathing, which improves recovery, it improves oxygenation, it improves performance, it reduces injury, it reduces pain. It's the way to go. And you might have to humble yourself for a small period of time, but very, very quickly, that ceiling is going to raise, and that is what raising the floor is all about. Now, tomorrow, you're going to learn a technique that is the secret to blowing off the roof. And you're gonna learn a series of different reasons why that is the case. I'll see you there.